Bryan Leyland, a power engineer, probably one of New Zealand's most experienced commentators on the generation and supply of electricity. Bryan, is ETS a problem?
Yes. The ETS is a problem, and it's a problem because it doesn't know what sort of problem it's trying to solve. In the real world, if we have a problem, we look at it logically, identify the problem, identify solutions, and implement them. Years ago, we discovered that lots of people were dying in car accidents because they got thrown through the windscreen. So we looked at the problem, came up with seat belts, made them compulsory, and solved the problem. But the emissions trading scheme is trying to solve a problem that probably doesn't exist, which is man-made global warming. But if it did exist, it still wouldn't be a solution, because nothing that New Zealand can do on its own will make the slightest difference. In fact, anything that New Zealand does in the way of reducing its own emissions will probably result in greater emissions worldwide. Because if we shut down our very efficient production, both farming and things like the aluminium smelter that runs off hydropower, the same products will be made overseas with a bigger greenhouse gas component. So even if it was a problem, it's not a solution.
Your field is electricity. What effect will the ETS have on electricity prices?
It'll have a big effect. And initially they say that the carbon tax, or what you want to call it, will be limited to $12.50 a tonne. But in fact, we still have to buy credits. And as I understand it, the government will be buying credits at maybe $28 a tonne, which is a current price, but only charging the generators $12.50 a tonne, and guess who? The taxpayer will pay the difference. So even though initially there will be a smaller effect on electricity prices, the same damage is being done to our economy. But soon as the price is allowed to go up to, let's say, $25 a tonne, then the generation cost at stations like Huntly, which burns coal, and so is our greatest emitter of carbon dioxide, will go up by about 2 cents. The way the electricity market works, the price of electricity will go up, that's paid to the generators will go up by 2 cents during the time that Huntly's, as they say, setting the price, which is about 80% of the time. So the net result of all that are two things. Domestic electricity prices will go up by about 10%, which is about $250 per household per year. And hydro generators, in particular, mostly owned by the government, will be making windfall profits of something like $700 million. This will, in general, go to the government and tax and other benefits. But why on earth are electricity consumers paying what's effectively a carbon tax on hydropower? It's crazy.
Are you saying that, I don't think that the public really realises, is that the price charged for electricity by any generator is fixed at the highest cost generator?
Yep, that's the way the electricity market works. There are some credible reasons for it, but particularly in New Zealand, where we've got old, efficient, low-cost hydro stations, it's crazy. In countries where that's all thermal generation, it has the effect of pushing the old, inefficient stations off. In the New Zealand system, all it does is give windfall profits to hydropower generators.
So just tell me again, what will this extra price that we pay for electricity, how will that have any effect on New Zealand's climate?
It can't have any effect as far as I can see. The first thing is, if the hydro generators operate commercially, which they're supposed to do, it'll be in their interest to keep Huntly running. So, because as long as Huntly is setting the price and it's 2 cents higher than otherwise is, they get this 2 cents. So it's in their commercial interest to, if necessary, back off hydro generation so that Huntly keeps on running. And if you look at Genesis, which owns Huntly and also owns some hydro stations, the net result of a carbon tax on Genesis is that they'll make a small windfall profit. So there's nothing in the whole system that induces the electricity generators to back off burning coal.
But what effect will this have on the temperature in New Zealand? Will
None.
it lower it?
None. It's tiny. Anyway, there's no evidence that carbon dioxide causes warming anyway. But worldwide, if you're worried about emissions, there's nothing surer than if we do manage to reduce emissions from New Zealand, if we do, it will be by knocking back production in New Zealand from agriculture and forestry and things like that. And the worldwide emissions will increase. Whichever way you look at it, it doesn't make sense.